Hey everyone, Gear Modder here. Wanted to talk about training your leather boots. I was reading some reviews and somebody made a comment about a pair of leather boots that they bought that there were some hot spots on the instep when they would walk, and so they gave the boots a bad review. And sometimes it's true, sometimes the boots just aren't made right, sometimes they don't fit right. Sometimes, however, the leather just needs to be trained. So we're going to talk about that today in this video. So for the purpose of this video, I went ahead and purchased a pair of these. These are the old military crew boots. They're McRae, these are Row Search actually. Um, and these are all leather. So that doesn't have like the nylon that kind of tends to bend better with your foot. Um, but these are brand new, never worn, maybe tried on perhaps. But obviously not used, right? Not broken in. And so we are going to break these boots in a little bit. We're going to train the leather and we are going to walk through that process. So leather is composed of different fibers and it has pores in it. It's skin, right? So it can be trained in the sense that you can have it bend a certain way as you walk. You can make the leather flex a certain way. But leather also has ways that it tends to uh, bend on its own. It has weaknesses in the material that it has it'll default to a certain bend if you don't train it properly. Now you've heard that you shouldn't get leather wet, right? And there's a reason for that. When leather gets wet, it will expand or it will contract depending on the mold or what's in it. So, and that's true with boots as well. So we're going to use water as we help train these boots. But if you have a leather jacket or something like that, then obviously you wouldn't want to get it wet because leather again will either contract or expand. It'll lose its shape. So the first thing we're going to do when we're training our leather, specifically leather boots, is we're going to put them on. It's good to have a pair of boots that fit right from the very beginning. You wouldn't want to have a tight fitting pair of boots and then use water to stretch it out so that it fits comfortably. It should be comfortable from the get-go. If it's not, you will have problems. Probably have problems later. So let's go ahead and put them on, and we're going to look to see how they naturally bend. What's the natural inclination of the leather as you flex your foot? Because then we can use that to decide how we're going to train the various parts of the boot. Now, typically, you'll train kind of right in here. You want to bend a certain way. You want to flex so it doesn't cause any hot spots. You'll want to train the back area here. So again, as you walk, the leather is going to flex. How does it hit your Achilles tendon? Is it comfortable? Is it not comfortable? And then this area here, as your toe flexes, you'd want to at least make sure that it's uniform or it's not pressing on your toes in a certain way. And we can train all of those areas. Now, it does have a heel cup, so you can't train that obviously. And then it has a front heel cup, so you can't train that area. And then you would typically wouldn't worry about the uppers except for the tongue, because the tongue is gusseted in these military combat boots kind of high, right? They're about almost 9 inches, 8 inches high. And so the other place to train would be the gusseted area here. You would want to make sure that when you put them on, they wrap around your foot. If it's wrinkled up top or if it's folded over, it will definitely cause a hot spot. So again, we would need to train that where when you put them on, it just defaults to wrapping around your ankle. So let's go ahead and put these on and we'll get started. All right, so as I mentioned before, as you put your boots on, they should fit comfortably from the very beginning. If they are way too tight, then you probably have the wrong size. You wouldn't want to use water to stretch them out a lot, right? They should be comfortable from the very beginning. This technique is really more to make the fit perfect, but they should fit fine from the very beginning. If they're way too tight, again, you probably need a different size. Again, you don't want, if you need a wide or if you need a narrow, then you need to make that purchase. But they should fit fine from the very beginning and feel good. All right, let's lace them up. Quick note as you're lacing your boots up, again, it's very important that the tongue from the very beginning is trained to wrap around your ankle. So make sure that it's tucked in there and that it's comfortable. You wouldn't want there to be a serious wrinkle, especially in the sides here. This is what I'm focused on from the very beginning so that it conforms to your ankle. If you buy these boots from a surplus, then the laces are very long. The thought would be to wrap them around your ankle here and then tie them off. I will replace these with 550 cord, but again, this is just for the video, just for the purpose of showing how to train leather boots. Okay, same thing on this side. Just make sure that the tongue is properly situated on both sides of your ankle. All the leather needs to be trained, needs to be set right from the very beginning. Now, I know some of you will say, hey, all you have to do is take a shower with your boots on, right? Get them soaking wet. Yes, we will do that too. But again, leather has kind of the way it wants to default when it bends. So even if you shower with the boots on, it will still tend to default to those creases. So we are going to set that default in advance before we get them sopping wet and ensure that the fit is perfect when we're finished. Okay, so this is not the way that I normally do my boots, but again, I'll swap the laces out later. So now I have my boots on. They fit fine. I want them to fit perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flex my foot to see how the leather naturally bends. What is the natural inclination of the fiber? So I'll start with my right foot. As I bend it, I can see, should come up on the camera okay. I can see that it's flexing out, which is what I want, but I can see this one's flexing in, which is what I don't want. That's what starts causing hot spots. So I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to flex it up. See, that's what I want. I want both sides to flex out so it doesn't rub on the instep of my foot when I walk. Okay. And as you work that leather out, it'll start defaulting to that bend. So in between the second and the third grommet here, I'm not counting these two. The second and third grommet here, I want them both to flex outward. If it flexes inward, it can cause hot spots. And then I'll just kind of work it out just a little bit. We'll get to the water here in a little bit. I'm just going to kind of flex it, let it kind of break in. Now, if you buy a pair of boots that's already broken in, you can still do this. It's a little more difficult because the leather has already been trained a certain way. So, but it just takes a little more work, but you can make this happen. So, just going to make sure that it bends right. Take note of what I need to fix. All right, let's move to the second shoe. Left foot, again, same thing. I'm going to bend my ankle up, and you can see that it wants to bend down here. Now, sometimes they can also be because of the spacing in between the grommets, or it's just the way the leather, again, is naturally inclined to bend. So I am going to bring these out because I want it to bend here. I want these to come out like that. The leather's got to go somewhere, right? So you don't want it going into your foot. You want it to flare out. So there we go. I'm gonna hold it there for a bit. Now, if you notice that when you unflex it and you flex it back, it wants to go back in again. It wants to re uh, retake that original shape. So I'm going to force it in the shape that I want. There we go. So now the fibers are naturally kind of bending the way that I want it to go. Again, haven't started using water yet. That will come here just a bit. Okay, good enough. All right, so now let's look at the back of the heel. The camera should pick it up. So as you same concept, right? As you flex it, how does the leather go into the back of your heel? So in this case, it's bending pretty nicely. You don't want the whole thing to go in. So on this side of the boot, it goes in. On this side, it comes out, and so it there's not a lot of pressure on the Achilles tendon because it's coming out here, and so it actually feels pretty nice. The natural bend of the leather is actually pretty good. So I may not have to worry about this boot much at all. It actually feels pretty decent. And as you'll see, it distributes the, the leather all the way up. It's bending a little bit here, it's bending a little bit up here, versus bending all in one place and pushing on your heel. So the heel on this boot is fine. Let's swap to the other boot. Let's take a look. I bend this up. Not too bad either, right? So it's coming out here, which is nice. It's going in here. On this side, it's going to in a little bit higher, a little bit higher. So it's kind of laddering up, which is perfect. Again, you don't want all of this. You wouldn't want a straight line of the leather pushing in because then it would cause a hot spot as you walk. Actually feels pretty good. I like my boots to have this kind of ladder-like design there because the leather, again, it's being evenly distributed when you flex your heel. Uh, and so you wouldn't have to worry about it causing hot spots. Now, this right here, if that bothers you, then you would need to work on that. You would need to push it out, maybe put another crease in here so it has another hump, and redistribute some of that leather as you train your boots to your feet. But for me, that's perfect. Again, has that kind of S feature, right, as the leather bends out. Swapping back to this boot, same thing, has a little S feature in the boot so that it's not a straight line anywhere in the crease, pushing in on my Achilles tendon. That would not be good. So the heels on these boots are pretty decent. Um, so I'm not worried about that. I am still worried about the instep though. That needs to be fixed. The other thing to think about again is the toes of the boots. So as you flex your boot, where does the leather move? So on this boot, when I flex, the leather comes up right here. Leather's got to go somewhere. And on this boot, it goes down. See that? That's the natural inclination to go down. This one goes up. I'd rather go up because that's more comfortable. If I go down, it's going to push down on your toes. So when I get them wet, I'm going to push that leather up to where that's the way it wants to bend. Okay, so now that we know what we need to work on, every boot's a little different, but on these, we need to work on this area right here on both boots to make sure it bends where we want, and then right here on this boot. So even though they have their manufacturing process, the leather is high quality leather. It's a thick leather. Combat boots are designed to protect your feet, so the leather is thicker than something like a pair of Doc Martens. Right, their leather is really thin. It's more comfortable, but it's not as durable as these boots. So that said, not all leather is equal. The leather from this boot may have been taken from a different stock than the leather from this boot, and so even though it's the same pair of boots, doesn't mean it's the same leather. So you will have differences in how the leather moves, how it reacts, and so you just react accordingly. But again, we're going to focus on this area on both boots and this area on this boot. So I'm not going to walk around in them. I'm going to take them off now. Again, I don't want to encourage the leather to bend in a way I don't want it to move. So boots got to come off. We're going to um, get them in the water. We're going to work on those specific areas first, and then we will work on the entire boot to make them fit like gloves. All right, be right back. All right, so in order for this to work, um, the process that I have found to be the best is to use very hot water. I try to get it as hot as you can possibly get it without burning yourself, of course. The reason being is hot water will cause the pores on the leather to expand, causing them to soak in that water faster, break down those fibers a little bit more, and then it dries faster because it's hot. So it evaporates quicker and the leather will hold its shape faster. So all of that to say, you want hot water, as hot as you can stand it, um, for this process. Now I do have my multi-tool out now too. Sometimes if I can't bend the leather by hand uh, as much as I would like, I will use pliers or some kind of vise or clamp to hold the leather where I want it for a little bit. That way it keeps its shape. Now leather, again, will take the shape of whatever's holding it. So if your pliers or your clamp has teeth, then those teeth will leave a mark in that leather. That's the way leather reacts when it gets wet. It'll start taking shape. And do I care if there are little marks on that bend? Not really. I'd rather the shoe fit. I'm gonna get them dirty. I'm not hiking them. You know, I'm gonna scratch them up. So yeah, don't really care. Okay, so here are my boots. We're gonna work right in this area here and this area here. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get these wet. I'll start off by hand, just getting some water. The leather will start absorbing the water. You'll see it starts absorbing the water instantly because these are brand new boots. They've never gotten wet before. And then you'll feel the leather start to get supple. All right, now I'm gonna start bending it. Again, get those fibers to start breaking down a little bit. I do want a little bit of water here like this just to get it in there. I don't care if the water gets in here with the tongue. Again, we're gonna shape that later and it won't absorb it too quick because the tongue is been painted, right? But right in here, those are open pores. You can already see it's absorbing that water. Versus on the painted side, it's just like actual fibers here you can actually see. So I'm going to work that in. That wet. I'm trying to focus the water just on that spot because I want it to keep that shape. Now it's going to stretch on this side and shrink on this side, which is what I want. In most pairs of boots, you'll see, if I come up close, you'll see it's actually two pieces of leather that have been sewn together. I'm not sure if that's going to be on the camera, but it's two pieces of leather. So I want this leather to stretch and this leather to shrink. All right, let's swap sides. This side, that's the bend that I want. I'm gonna go ahead and get the outside of it wet and get that water again, I want to get into those fibers so that the leather will start naturally wanting to bend right there when I'm done. It's gonna stretch all this out and shrink on the inside. So if you're having trouble keeping it as tight as you want, that's where the multi-tool would come in. So just to demonstrate, I would get it wet, let that water soak into those fibers, and then I would squeeze it to get that bend, to get that crease really good in there. Again, I'm not worried about cosmetics as much. You're going to take these out. You're going to go hiking with them. They're just painted, right? That's just painted leather. Those who are really serious about making their boots as comfortable as possible, um, and breaking them in, will take sandpaper and they'll just get rid of this paint. And then it'll turn white, and then it'll turn brown, the natural color of the leather. Okay, to the next boot. So on this side, let's get it wet. Now, some people will flex it both ways. Don't do that, because you want the outside leather to stretch, but the inside leather to shrink. So if you flex the other way, then you get um, the opposite effect. So I'm going to keep it this way at all times. And I'm just tightening it and loosening it, but don't bend it the other way. All right, let's go to the other side. There's no perfect boot. These grommets on this boot are a little bit closer than the ones on that boot. It happens. But the leather will still stretch. You just may have to squeeze a little harder. That's where the multi-tools can come in if you need it. But I just want that one piece right there to stretch a little bit more. So when it dries, again, this leather on the outside will have stretched. On the inside, it would have shrunk. So that's what we're wanting. And when we're done here, we're going to put them back on, and we're going to flex and see if our operation was a success. Okay, so I'm just kind of holding them down for a second so that they dry a little bit. Again, that's why it's important to use hot water. The other thing I want to do is work on the toe of this boot. We talked about that needing to come up. I'm gonna get the top of this wet. Again, because it's painted, it takes a little bit more for it to absorb that water. So I'm just pushing up with my fingers here. As I do that, the pores will open up a little bit and it will absorb some of the water. The best way of doing this is to pour water inside the boot. But again, that will come later. I just want to get the leather to want to naturally bend this way. So I'm just putting some heat on top of it so that when it bends, see that? It's going to want to bend up now. That's what I want. It's going to want to start coming up off my toes, not into my toes. And now that it's doing that there we go. See that? Now it kind of wants to do that. My fingers aren't even pushing anymore. It kind of wants to do that motion. Off my toes. Now, these Crew boots were issued, I think these are 97. So these are later. So they had a smaller toe cap in these. The original back in the 80s, early 90s had a longer toe cap. So wasn't much of an issue back then. It would crease right at the toe cap. But this later ones, 97s, 98s, they had a smaller toe cap. So that's why we're having to do some of this. There we go. See, hand out there. Now it bends up the way I want it to bend. Okay, let's put them on. All right, so we are in a good position. As I bend naturally now, they want to flex out, which is what I want. This one here, again, this boot was the grommets were a little bit closer together. It wants to flex out, which is fine. This grommet's holding it down. Not worried about that. It still wants to flex out versus in. So I don't feel any pressure. So no hot spots there, but it wants to do what I'm training it to do, which is nice. So I'm just going to move them around. Again, I just want to break that leather in. All right. And then when I flex my toes, now they both go up, which is exactly what I want. So this one's coming up, which is nice. And that one's coming up, which is nice. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. The lines don't have to match. And I'm not worried about that. I'm just worried about whether or not the leather presses down on my foot when I walk, and it could cause hot spots. All right, so the next step is to get in the shower. We're going to get them sopping wet. Again, they're bending on both sides of that grommet, which is nice. Again, it just as long as it defaults to that. And then on this side too, a couple of points. Remember to make sure you that the tongue of your boot is tucked in evenly on both sides. Wherever it lands, that's where it's going to land. So you want to make sure that that's perfect the way you want it. Doesn't feel wrong. It's not pressing in on your ankle um, before we get them wet. And then make sure that the socks you're wearing, these are hiking socks. Make sure that the socks you're wearing are the thickness you want to wear. I would go thicker rather than thinner. So socks are very important. Choice of socks is very important. And then tongue placement is very important. All right, let's get wet. All right, guys. So the best way of doing this is with a shower. Just jump right in, shower like you normally would in the morning. Very hot. Again, that's what you want. You want that hot water as hot as you can stand. Make sure it gets into your boots. Make sure that your boots get really wet, right? You want them to be soaked and saturated. That water needs to get all the way in. Um, don't worry about the shampoo. Don't worry about the conditioner. Go ahead and flex them a little bit. Again, you're looking for that toe. Yep, toe's flexing the way it should. That's flexing the way it should. No hot spots. The heel feels really good. They need to be just drenched. The inside of this boot is not painted, it's dyed, and so the inside of the boot will absorb the water way better than the outside of it. All right, they feel like they're pretty saturated. Okay, I think we're good. All right, so I'm going to go for a walk. Ideally, you would wear them the rest of the day, sopping wet. Um, you would change your socks out a few times. You don't want to hurt your feet in this process, but you're looking to see how it feels, making sure that it's bending where you want. I can look down and I can see the bend is perfect at the moment. But I want it to dry like that. If you take them off too soon and they dry incorrectly, well, then you've ruined the process. You have to start all over again. Again, you can do this with boots that have already been worn. You can do this um, with used boots. It's just a little harder because the leather has already been trained. It's already been stretched. It's already been shrunk in different areas. And so you can do it, but it's just way more difficult. It's good to do this on a sunny day so that they dry faster. Um, but you can do it kind of in any weather. Maybe not raining weather, I guess. Now, once you're done with the process and it's raining outside, you don't have to worry about it. The leather's going to bend in the direction that you've trained it to bend. So, not an issue. But um, for the initial process, you probably don't want to wear these out in the rain while you're doing this. You want them to dry in this configuration. I'm just kind of walking down the street here. It's cool outside, but the sun is bearing down pretty good. So it's a perfect time to be doing this. Okay, so far so good. So I'm walking back towards the house. What I'm going to do is I'm going to empty the water out. I'm going to put them back on. Again, I don't want to get the whole house wet. Ideally, you go for a hike. You would go for a run or something to really break that leather in good. I could keep walking, I guess, But that's the concept, right? The concept is that that leather keeps bending where you want it to bend. For the next couple of hours, I'm gonna keep an eye on it, make sure that the bend is where I want it, make sure that my toes aren't being pinched or the leather's not coming in or whatever the case may be, that they're comfortable and not causing any hot spots. Some will say, well, won't that ruin the leather? Well, yes, we want it to. We want it to ruin the leather a little bit so that it's more comfortable. That's how you break leather in. All right, so you'll notice that after you've been walking for a while in the sun, and you've wiped your boots off a few times, as you walk, you'll see less and less water come out of the creases when you walk. There'll still be some, it's still coming out, but it'll start going away. When the water is completely out of the boot, that's when you're finished. But now that it's lowering, it's not pouring out of the pores as I walk. It's probably time to change my socks, put a dry pair on. Again, I mean, you're going to keep this process up until as you walk, there's no more water coming out of those pores. The leather and the inside is dry. It might be a little damp on the outside, but that's okay. Um, Ideally, you'd want them completely dry when you're done walking. So that is the final step to this process. When you're finished, they should fit perfectly, and you shouldn't have any hot spots going forward. Now, I would recommend when you're done conditioning your leather, maybe some mink oil, maybe some neat's foot oil. There's so many products out there. I think neat's foot oil is one of the best. It kind of does the same thing. It breaks the leather fibers down. So does it take life out of the leather boots? Technically, yes, um, but it does make them more comfortable. So you can do that, but definitely some kind of conditioner just to keep that leather strong, since we've kind of broken those fibers down a little bit. Also, make sure that whatever insoles you plan on wearing are the ones that are in your boots. The insoles add volume into your boot. And so, again, as we're thinking about the leather constricting and stretching, the insoles will play a part in how they finish forming. So, you wouldn't want to do this with insoles that are super thick and then switch to insoles that are super thin. The boots won't fit right. So, make sure that your insoles are the ones you intend to wear with these boots when you do this process. Another thought, just as you are doing this process, when you lace your boots up, you want to make sure that you lace them as tight as you're going to wear them. Um, because you got them sopping wet, the walls of the boot here will also stretch. So if you have them too tight, they'll stretch this leather out as well. And if you don't have them tightened evenly on both shoes, you'll have one that needs to be tightened more than the other going forward. So again, make sure they're as tight as you would normally wear them from the start, because that side leather will also stretch. All right, everyone. So I'm going to finish my walk. I'm going to get the boots dry, and they're going to fit perfectly when I'm finished. So if you have a pair of leather boots and they're not fitting quite right, they feel a little tight, you know the size is right from the very beginning, but they're pushing in on the wrong parts of your foot. Try this trick out. Train your leather to do what you want it to do. Train it to move the creases to bend where you want them to bend so that they're super comfortable. Get them sopping wet, walk them dry, and they'll fit like slippers. All right, everyone, appreciate you joining. If you've learned something new today, if you wouldn't mind just hitting that like and subscribe button below, that helps me out. I would appreciate that. And until next time, this is Gear Modder signing out.